Welcome to As I Live and Grieve, a podcast that tells the truth about how hard this is. We're glad you joined us today. We know how hard it is to lose someone you love and how well-intentioned friends and family try so hard to comfort us. We created this podcast to provide you with comfort, knowledge, and support. We are grief advocates, not professionals, not licensed therapists. We are you.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back again to As I Live and Grieve. Our guest today is a special person, Alexandra Maas. She's from the Netherlands.
Hi.
Alexandra, how are you doing?
Fine.
Good. Before we get started on our topic for the day, which is talking about grief and the holidays, would you just refresh your background a little bit in the mind of our listeners? Maybe some haven't heard you before, so could you just tell them who you are?
Yeah, I can. I'm a grief counselor. I've been for 17 years. Before that, I worked as a representative for police and military personnel with a trade union. We have those for military and police. So that's what my job was. And very early in my life, I understood that one of the things I was very good in is listening to people in grief and being with people in grief. So somehow it's a talent, and in the run of my years, I decided to make my job of that. And my expertise is men in grief, because men grieve differently from women. And I think we don't acknowledge that enough, and we don't take care of our men enough in a way that suits them, and that is detrimental to their grief healing and the way they can go on with life after their loss. So I made it my purpose to work mostly, but not only with men in grief.
That's good. And I agree with you completely that men do grieve differently. And many times we're so caught up in our own grief that if there's a man in our life who may be grieving also, it would serve us to try to help and support in a way that would benefit that person in our lives as well. So as we talk today about the holidays and everything, I know there are probably some general statements that we can both make or agree upon for general grieving during the holidays, but I would like to introduce how it impacts the men in our lives as well. I want to have kind of both foci,
Focuses
on those type of words. My English always gets a little skewed, but focuses sounds good, so We'll go with that. So let's begin. Now, here in the States, we have a big holiday coming up in another month, our Thanksgiving. And that is a traditional time when families gather, sometimes in great numbers, for dinner, an afternoon of college football, maybe even the morning parades that they have with the upcoming Christmas season, because Santa Claus always makes an appearance in those parades. So if you are grieving, whether it's recent or not, holidays can be difficult for you. So what are just some of the initial things you might say to someone who's on their grief journey with an upcoming holiday?
Well, I did a lot of research lately on that topic in some grief groups on Facebook, and asked the question, how are you dreading the grief? How are you dreading the holidays? Because I can tell that when you are in grief or you have been in grief, it always seems like it's a sore spot. It doesn't matter how long ago your loss was, it keeps being a sore spot. And especially because there's so much more tradition than just a meal together. So when your beloved falls away or your family diminishes, and for some people it really is like that. If you're an only child and both your parents die and you're divorced or lost your spouse, you're completely alone. Mm-hmm. There's so much more than just a meal that isn't going on in your life. And there's so much anticipation gone. And I think with the holidays, the anticipation is a really big thing. So if you have to miss out on that, there's a lot of joy in life you are missing out on.
So with holidays coming up, do you think it's more anticipation about the holiday, or about the interaction with the other people that will be there?
There's mutual factors. The one is people dread not having the same excitement, the joy, the euphoria. That's not there anymore. And they don't like that, and they don't know what they will feel. Most likely they will feel bouts of grief and pain. Whatever happens, however ever happy they are with their family or with the people who surround them, they still will feel bouts of pain and loneliness and isolation and being cut off. That will never go away. It will sometimes be more hard than other times, but it will never go away. This is what comes when you lose and you need someone to be there who isn't. One of the other things you have is that socials can be really awkward, especially at first anniversaries. People are still aware that you are in grief. Oh yes, Jane lost her husband in May. We should ask her to come for Thanksgiving with us. And they mean well, but what the hell would you do if you have to sit with 30 people you don't know or vaguely know, and nobody knows what's going on in your mind? Or maybe they ask difficult questions. One of the things we get the most, sure. Please don't ask me anything. How are you doing? Might be a really wrong question. So that's what people dread, the questions and the awkward conversations, but also seeing other people enjoy company of partners or children of parents, right, which you have to miss. It's confrontational. And then you have the fact that when you are in grief, you become really introverted. Large crowds are not your thing anymore for a while. And that might never change again. So being in a room full of happy people, all talking, yelling at each other, children running around, it might be way too much for your stress levels to have, you just can't take that. So is there an opportunity in the house or in the setting or in the way you have talked about it with people to retreat? Can you pull back a bit? Can you sit in another room for a bit with a cup of coffee or a cup of tea? Just be alone for a bit until you feel you can do this again. Right. So that's a tip. If people ask you, make it clear that you need your place to be out of the busyness for a bit. And
even if it's the bathroom,
even if it's a bathroom or the garden or and also make the arrangement that people, I love you to bits and I really am happy you asked me, but if I can't take it anymore, I'm going home. And so you feel okay with stepping out after the soup, or not waiting for dessert. That's fine. You don't have to. You need to arrange that. So you have to be lovingly assertive in asking for what you need.
I like that phrase, lovingly assertive. I think that's key.
A big thing in grief is being lovingly assertive, understanding that other people mean well, but not always do the right thing, but also being capable of saying, I love your gesture, but for me, this is not the right time or the right point, or this won't work for me now. Right. And then there's the point that actually in some cases, it might even be better to stay on your own, to choose solitude over the feeling of isolation you have in company. Mm-hmm. Because my personal experience, and I don't know about you, but I felt so lonely sometimes in big crowds or in big in the large settings of a whole family. I felt the most alone. Yes. And I felt better if I just stayed at home and made myself a new ritual for those days. So with Christmas, I have my own ritual. I don't do trimmings. I don't do decoration. I don't do Christmas trees. And people will say that's very unsettling because then you just ignore the Christmas. And I'm like, yeah, somehow I am. I'm trying to. But I do make a lovely dinner for me and my son, and I do have a nice floral arrangement on the table, and we do use our, the best silverware of my mom. We all do that. Sure. We make our new rituals. But
Right.
I lost so many people. We were 37 at a table once, and I'm alone with my child now.
Ooh.
And that's not
Mhm.
all to death, but you lose people collateral death.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Yes.
and when he is with his father, because I'm divorced of his father, then I'm all alone. And if I sit in the feeling
Mhm.
of, oh, look at me, I'm all alone, and all people have nice Christmases and happy families, and then you feel really rotten. So deciding I am not going to let myself go there and make my own rituals by buying a good book, buying the meal I like, not looking
Mhm.
too much at television or listening to the radio where everybody talks about how joyful and celebratory, what's the word?
Celebrity. You got it right. You got it. We're stumbling over our words today.
We
That's
use the
terrible.
wrong words.
That's all
The
right.
more festive people are portraying Christmas, the more
Yeah.
shitty you feel. So take a stand away. Turn on your own music without being all too Christmassy. Read a good book.
Right. Right.
Go to bed early. Enjoy a long night. Sleep in, whatever, but make it to your comfort. Make it to your comfort.
Exactly. Exactly. I think there's so much wisdom in what you've said. I love new ritual. I still love the lovingly assertive. Those are very important. The first holiday, the first kind of festive family dinner holiday after I lost my husband, I actually spent with his children. They invited me because my daughter was out of town visiting in-laws. And we try to, when you have those families, you share holidays. So I went over there for that first holiday and I felt so alone. I didn't feel lonely because I was surrounded by people, but I felt alone. And I just kept hoping nobody asks me any questions. And then I would get introduced to other members, maybe in the family that I had only met once or twice before. And it was at a birthday party years ago. Oh, this is Kathy. This is Tom's wife. Well, yeah, this is Tom's widow,
Ow.
and yeah, ow is right. And then after that introduction, of course, people trying to make conversation. Well, so how are you doing?
Wonderful.
How long has it been? Do you think you'll ever date again?
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah. And then questions similar to that started. And I went into the kitchen to play with the dog.
I always step into the kitchen and do dishes because somehow
Yeah.
the warm water soothes my sorrow.
Yeah, I had a hard time being lovingly or otherwise assertive.
Most women.
It was very difficult for me at that point because it was out there. It was hard for me to say that.
You feel so naked, don't you?
But you do. You just feel stripped of everything. And I remember thinking, I wish I had just stayed at home. I had grown comfortable to being by myself at home.
Yeah.
And at least if I wanted to have a pleasant memory, I could do it without these intrusive questions. So, but that was me.
And how much would have it helped if people would say, do you want to talk about him? I have a lovely memory of your husband. Can I share it with you? Right. How warm and inviting and comforting that would have been if people would have said that. Oh,
exactly.
I can remember the one day he did, and then they tell you a story which is full of fun and joy and laughter, and you feel so much better than, oh, you're the widow, joink,
Yeah. Mic drop.
Every conversation drops after
that. That was very difficult.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, especially for women, you get questions like that sometimes. And there's that stereotypical, oh, the poor widow, oh, the poor woman all alone. Is it any different for men that maybe have lost their wife or their mom or their dad, and it's their first holiday without that loved one?
Well, I think they have the same feelings most of the time, but men tend to to push feelings aside and be there for others in the way of I'm not going to show up as I am. I'm going to show up as you want me.
Yep.
And they are somehow better equipped than women because we can't do that emotionally that well. But it's not per se a good thing that men can do it well. It means they do it all too often, all too long. It's not just for the occasion. They do it all the time.
Right.
And that's a problem. One of the things I found while I progressed in my practice with men and studied the topic is that men grieve by the availability of a woman.
What do you mean?
Yeah, that's a difficult sentence if I say it like that. A man isn't, not all men, not all men. Let me start by saying, not all men. Most men aren't able to articulate their feelings of grief or vulnerability or anxiety or sadness or whatever. All those big feelings men are not used to talk about. So they don't have the vocabulary and they don't have the routine of talking about it. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It does.
So what a man does mostly is when he's married, his wife is his interpreter.
Oh.
You know,
all right. I get that.
John's been down a bit lately because he lost his job. Women will say that to other people, so John doesn't have to say, I feel shit because I lost my job.
Right.
Excuse my language.
That's okay.
This is how it goes when you are the wife of a man. You start to tell people how he feels. And that might not per se be a good thing, but we do. And
we do it. It becomes a habit.
Yeah, and men tend to think, oh, well, if she says it, I don't have to. That's better. So when this wife departs and he's alone, he doesn't have her, so he misses his love. Right. But he also misses the person who tells him how he feels and who tells other people how he feels. Does that make sense?
It does, and it's a perspective I never thought of.
Yeah. So what do men do when they need to grieve? They find a new wife.
They look for another woman.
They look for another woman to tell him how he feels. He needs to have that outlet. So when men go into new relationships very fast after their wife died, people speak of, they shame these men, but they are wrong about it because he needs that.
He needs that, yeah.
He doesn't say anything about him not loving his first wife anymore. He needs that new woman in his life to tell him how he feels and to tell other people how he feels. He needs her to interpret. That's her function. Wouldn't
it be, or isn't there a way that the man can learn to express himself? How can that happen?
Well, then you have to have a man who understands this symptom of a system he is in. Okay. This is a system of cohabiting.
Okay.
Cohabitation. And if he understands that and he thinks, oh, that's not a very good thing. I shouldn't be, in a new relationship just to have someone to tell me who I am at this point or what I feel at this point. Then he is open to change. But most men find this just comfortable as it is, and it's not very hard to do. And thinking about yourself and changing yourself and transformational thought patterns and inner work.
Well, yeah.
Most men are not into that, let's be honest. No. I hope there come, and I see that, new generations do things differently.
Right.
I do see that.
Now, does that have the potential to be a good relationship or a difficult relationship?
That new one.
Yeah.
It depends. Sometimes it's pure rebound. Sometimes it's pure, I can't be alone. I don't know what to do with myself.
Okay.
And they need another person. Sometimes it is genuine feelings of admiration, love, reciprocity,
Okay.
friendship, comradeship,
Uh-huh.
real mating.
Right.
And it doesn't mean he's not ready. He is ready.
Yeah.
It just means there are always risks in a new relationship when you are at a
Sure.
certain age.
Sure.
So you always have to be able to be really honest with yourself and the other person. And I think we as a generation, I'm 54, you're 55, I think.
Me? I've had an anniversary, I think,
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah. My mother always said, I've become, how did she say? I'm at the age of 45, and then she was 55 already. Somewhere you stop counting, right? But
Yes. Yes.
when you're a certain age, you are so set in your ways and the way you are
Right.
raised and the ways life has treated you. It's sometimes really difficult to make the change to be together.
Right.
So I wrote a column on that recently on my Facebook group, Cup of
Oh,
Grief,
okay.
on
Yeah.
that topic. I was recently asked by a new girlfriend of a widower,
Uh-huh.
and she said he's still talking about his wife, and there's still photos in the house, and I don't feel comfortable with that. And I told her what I thought of that, and how she should proceed to make this a good thing, and what are things to be cautious about. Because there are, of course. But I think if men are so isolated and cut off love and intimacy and on their own with the holidays, there is a big risk they are in more trouble than women. That's absolutely a fact.
They would probably tend to not go
They
as
will probably,
opposed to go and feel uncomfortable,
but
right?
people won't ask them either.
Yeah.
No, if you have this second degree cousin who lost his wife and has no kids, you're not going to ask him. You always think there's somebody else who's asking them. There's a lot of people who think of that like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So maybe we should think long and hard about the people around us we know that are alone.
Oh, that's a difficult one. My mother was one of those. My mother always opened her doors to anybody who was alone with Christmas, so we were never amongst ourselves.
Right.
And as a kid, that bugged me. Then there was this strange guy next to me sitting on the table slurping a soup, and he smelled funny. I didn't like that at all as a child.
I can understand.
Yeah,
that. I can understand.
but
that.
it is a good thing to understand that it might be also a moment to realize that Christmas is or the holidays is all about giving and sharing.
Right.
So
there's a time to do that, but your family needs your attention too.
yeah, but you can do both. You can do both. You can do the intimate family dinner with just your children or just your nearest blood relatives, and the other day you can do the big stuff.
Right. My mother says that's what Christmas Eve is for. She always said that Christmas Day is for the family alone.
Yeah.
Christmas Eve is for friends and other acquaintances to come by and share a cookie, share a drink, share a story. And that's how it was in our family.
Yeah.
And then, of course, as kids grow up and get married, Christmas Eve becomes all about, well, we'll do Christmas Eve at my parents', Christmas Day at yours, and then next year we'll switch. And it gets so complicated sometimes.
Yeah, it does.
It really does.
Especially if relations break off and you have grandchildren who have to do 4 to 6 houses. It's almost Halloween from one house to another.
You're right. It's almost like trick or treating. Yeah. Absolutely. So suffice it to say that for most people, trying to be lovingly assertive if you're invited for dinner it probably would be nice to go. You don't always want to be isolated
No.
in your home.
And
So it's
sometimes,
nice to go and can actually help you move through your grief to
exactly.
get out.
Yeah.
But it's different for a man than a woman. And it can be a little trickier for men because they're not used to expressing themselves.
Yeah, that can be a portion of the problem. Yeah, well, sometimes the apprehension is bigger than what actually happens. So we always fear
Well, that's
what's not
true.
there yet. And
That's true.
if you understand that there might be issues with being somewhere where you don't feel at home or belonging, then you can understand that you can take precautions, and the precautions make you more confident that you can do it. And then your perspective changes, and it actually might be a good day.
What might a precaution be? What's something maybe
when someone asks you to come over for Christmas dinner or Thanksgiving dinner, say, I'd love to, but I might not feel that way the whole time. So don't mind me if I retreat to the kitchen and start washing the dishes, or when I decide it's enough and I go home. It has nothing to do with your offer. It has nothing to do with I'm not comfortable there. It's just, for me, I can only do very small portions. So I take my portion and then I'll go. Or I'll step out and wait a bit and come back in again. And
that makes sense.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah.
Then you're with good friends or good company and you feel safe. And that might, just being able to make that understanding, it gives you so much more ease. And the whole thing of, oh my God, imagine that I'm going to cry or feel unpleasant or whatever. It takes that away because I can step out anytime. That's okay.
So it does make more sense to maybe use that lovingly assertiveness at the time of the invitation.
Yes, but also
instead of as you walk in the door.
Well, of course, if you're invited, this is a topic to talk about. But also when you are there and somebody says, "Oh, how long has it been now for you? 6 months?" and you're like, "Shit, I don't want to talk about that." And, and then you it's okay to say, "Thank you for inquiring," or "Thank you for your attention. Right. I appreciate it, but this is not a topic I want to talk about with you now." And they have to decide it's either now or with me. But it's just, they have to understand it's not appropriate for you.
Yeah.
And don't feel ashamed for that.
Yeah. There's a local group. We've been doing like combining a book group and a grief support group. And we've been reading and discussing books on grief. And it's kind of worked twofold. And I remember one of the ladies there said that her coined phrase for things like that was, "Today is my day for private memories, not public conversation."
Wonderful. Wonderful. It's cool. Yeah.
And she said that, people just all of a sudden, their eyes opened wider, like they realized that it was difficult.
Yes.
And
then
she said that the whole ambiance of the day changed.
Yeah.
She said she found people were more supportive.
Yeah. And they also realized that some questions are just darn unhealthy.
Yeah, they are. They are. Yeah. Okay. Well, we've come to that time.
Yes.
When it's getting close to time to wind down. So I want to turn the microphone over to you, Alexandra, and let you tell everybody about your website, your Sunday morning group, anything you want to let them know, what offerings you can give them. Go ahead.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Well, I'm on Facebook mostly, and you can find me under my page name, my grief counselor page name. That's Alexandra Maas not .com. And then you find me on Facebook. But I also have a private group. So you can enter there after a couple of questions, and then you can feel free to join in on conversations about grief without the rest of the world seeing that, which is important. That's called Cup of Grief. And I have a Sunday morning with OU, Sunday morning coffee, which is about 3/4 of an hour, around 11 PST, Pacific. And we do a cup of coffee on Zoom with whoever comes in and whatever comes up. The only thing you have to bring is a cup of coffee or tea. And I have also a Monday evening question and answer session that's live on Facebook, and you can enter your questions up front or during the live via Facebook or Messenger. And I do want to say, if people feel that the holidays will be a very difficult season for them, and they think they could do with some inspiration and some help with support with finding new meaning and finding new rituals and finding new purpose for those days, I have my Winter Blues program, which comes up in the week of Thanksgiving and takes until 6th of January. So we're covering all the holidays and will be live in the air on Facebook and Zoom every week twice. And there's a lot of material involved where you can see what options you have to create new rituals, to help you think about grief, to write letters to people you have to be lovingly assertive to. You know, all those things are involved. So if anybody feels like that could be something for me, please come to Facebook and find me there. And let's talk. I can help you.
She absolutely can help you. Alexandra, you have such a gentle spirit and you're so easy to talk to. And you're also a wonderful listener. So I encourage our listeners to check it out.
Thank you.
So now it's time to say goodbye. I know I'm going to use that phrase, lovingly assertive, as I start to approach the holidays. And even though it's been 4.5 years since I lost my husband, the holidays can still be a little difficult sometimes because there are triggers that abound everywhere.
Yeah.
I know Christmas morning as my grandson's open presents is always difficult for me because my husband used to just delight in watching smiles when they opened the gifts from us. So I've found some other unique little new rituals myself to kind of make that a whole different memory. But I treasure those memories nonetheless, and they always come to me on Christmas morning. So let's say goodbye for now, and I hope all of our listeners will take care of themselves, think about the upcoming holidays and what you might be able to do, the support you might be able to enlist from the people that may be going to invite you somewhere, or if the dinner or festivities are going to be in your house, because that's tradition, think about maybe some new rituals that you can put in, maybe to add some memories so that not just you, but everyone who grieves that loss might have a new ritual to help them as well. So until next week, everybody, take care. I love you all wherever you are in this world of ours. Tune in again next week as we all continue to live and grieve.
Thank you so much for listening with us today. Do you have a topic that you'd like us to cover, or do you have a question from one of our episodes? Please email us at info@asiliveandgrieve.com and let us know. We hope you will find a moment to leave a review, send an email, and share with others. Join us next time as we continue to live and grieve together.